Welcome, and thank you for joining me for Periscope for Yogis 101. This course is designed to get you started with Periscope and get you scoping like a pro. We have a lot to cover in this class today, and before we get started, I want to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Esme. I'm the founder of 42yogis.com. I'm a yoga teacher, wellness coach, and business coach. I'm also an artist in my free time. That was my profession for many, many years. I'm obsessed with tattoos, roller skating, funky hair color, as you can see here in this picture. I've been working online since the mid-90s. I started building websites when I was very little, and this is how I put myself through college. I love working online. I was raised by some pretty geeky parents, and working online has been really amazing for me and helping me shape the life that I want to live. As a business consultant, I have a track record of helping small businesses of all different kinds, coffee shops, restaurants, farms, ATV parks, grow organically using social media. Social media is a really fabulous tool for growing any business, not just your yoga business. And that is what I focus on working with my clients on. This is an amazing time we live in. We get all of these amazing tools at our disposal that we can use to grow our businesses. I am completely obsessed with Periscope. Periscope has been an amazing app for helping me grow my business and helping others grow theirs. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. This class is for you if you are new to Periscope. If you've only done a couple scopes, maybe you haven't done any at all, maybe you've just watched some scopes, or maybe you haven't even installed the app yet. This is where you want to be. This class is also for you if you are struggling to grow your fan base or engagement on Periscope. This is also for you if you know you need to be on Periscope, but you're a little bit terrified of being on video. Maybe you don't like the way you look, maybe you get stage fright. Don't worry, we're going to talk about that today. This class is designed to take about 2 hours. I know that's quite a long time. I'm hoping we can get through things a little bit quicker, but we may not be able to because I really want to make sure that you get the most value out of this that you possibly can. I will do a Q&A at the end. If you have any questions, please do save them for the Q&A. I like to structure the courses like this to ensure that I give you the value you signed up for immediately. If you're not interested in sticking around for Q&A, if you're not interested in hearing what some of the other participants have to say, then you don't have to. You can leave as soon as I am done teaching you about Periscope. We have a lot to cover today. So I'm going to take a sip of water and we're going to jump right in. Periscope is a live streaming app. Live streaming means video that is coming to you real time. Periscope lets you see what's going on from somebody else's smartphone in real time. There are scopers all around the world. I've watched some amazing broadcasts in India, in Africa, in England. There are scopers all around the world doing really amazing things with this app, and they come from all walks of life. If you want to set your yoga business apart from all the others that are crowding Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, then Periscope is for you. Periscope is such a new app. You have a unique opportunity to get in on the ground floor of something big and set yourself apart as a yoga business thought leader. Now, how cool is that? We haven't been able to get in on the ground floor of a social media network in quite a while. But what the heck is Periscope anyway? Periscope, as I mentioned a moment ago, is a live streaming video app that has only been out for a few months. Periscope was created, and before it was even launched, it was purchased by Twitter for $100 million. Twitter officially launched Periscope under the Twitter App Store account in the iTunes App Store March 26, 2015. Periscope was out on iOS for Apple devices, iPads, and iPhones alike for 2 months before it came to Android on May 26, 2015. Periscope is the fastest growing social network in history. There are over 10 million users, and this has happened in just 4 months. Every single day, it is estimated 40 years of scopes are watched. Can you imagine 40 years of video content is being watched every single day on Periscope? I myself, I watch about 2 to 3 hours a day. I love Periscope. I love seeing all these other people. I love the community. I love the engagement. Periscope has pretty much replaced TV for me. Now, when you first heard of Periscope, you may have thought, well, what's the big deal? It's YouTube. No, it is so not YouTube. It is so not like YouTube. The only way in which Periscope and YouTube are similar is that they both have video. But that's where the similarities stop. Periscope is so different from YouTube because unlike YouTube, where you create your video, you upload it, and people can comment on it later, Periscope allows your viewers to interact with you in real time using a chat function. You cannot edit your Periscopes. If you drop your phone, well, too bad, that's in the Periscope. If you stumble over your words, well, too bad, that's in the Periscope. There is no editing functionality in Periscope, and that's part of what makes it so amazing. It is real time. It is authentic. It is real. You get to see people as they are, not this polished, perfect version that you get from a video editor who's working on a YouTube video. Periscope allows your viewers to interact with you in real time using chat. They can type messages in, and it displays on the screen, and you can read them, you can respond, you can ignore them. This makes the experience much more personalized and much more authentic. And authenticity is where it's at for anybody who is business. Let me repeat that. Authenticity is where it is at for anybody who is in business. Periscope brings the authenticity like no other social media network out there. On Periscope, you get to fine-tune your audience to those who resonate with you and your message because you're being yourself. You are being true to you and what you believe in. If someone doesn't like what you're all about, they can just leave. This is a really easy way to drill down your audience to only those who jive with you. Now, even though there are 10 million users on Periscope, only 1% of the users actually do any broadcasting. I'm going to repeat that because this is a very important stat for you to have memorized. There are 10 million users on Periscope, but only 1% of them actually broadcast. The majority of users on Periscope watch. That is a huge potential audience base for you and what you're doing. And out of the 1% who actually broadcast, very, very few of them actually do anything about yoga. I don't have any stats about that. Unfortunately, I have not been able to get this information from Periscope, but there are very few yogi scopers out there. Periscope has proven to be a great platform for meditation, as was demonstrated with the Global Meditation Scope on August 8th, where hundreds of Periscopers came together and broadcast meditation for 24 hours. Those who are doing meditation and those who are teaching yoga on Periscope are growing their followers and growing their communities on and off Periscope at a lightning pace. But followers aren't everything. Followers don't necessarily pay the electric bill. Just because you have 1 million followers or 10,000 likes doesn't mean you're actually making any money. So that begs the question, is Periscope really good for business? Can Periscope really help your yoga business? The answer is yes. Periscope rocks for business growth. And I'm going to give you 2 stories about that right now. Meet Zach Spuckler. Zach Spuckler is the founder of HeartSoulAndHustle.com. He is 22 years old. In his first 30 days on Periscope, he made $10,000. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not making this up. You can look up Zach Spuckler. You can go to his website. You can look at his Facebook group. He has made $10,000 on Periscope. And he did not have a Twitter following. He barely had a Facebook following. His Facebook following is far less engaged than his Periscope following. And he still made $10,000 on Periscope in 30 days. And he's not the only one. Kim Garst is the founder of Social Boom. Social Boom is an amazing company that helps people grow their social media presence through content strategy, blog posts. She will help you grow your social media presence. Kim Garst is the creator of one of the very first Periscope for Business courses. Kim has said that she makes between $500 and $1,000 per day on Periscope. $500 to $1,000 in sales from Periscope per day. They are not doing anything that you can't do. Kim Garst and Zach Spuckler may have been early adopters. They may have gotten in on the ground floor of this thing. They may have found a way to leverage this platform, but you can too. There are so many people who have been able to use Periscope as a way to grow their business and engage their fans. Periscope is by no means a get-rich-quick platform. It takes work, it takes consistency, and it takes effort. But you can grow your yoga business using Periscope. And I'm going to teach you how. So in today's class, we are going to discuss how to use the app. I'm even going to show you how to block trolls. We're going to talk about what hearts are and why they matter. You're going to learn what to scope about. You're going to learn how to come up with awesome scope ideas. Periscope best practices. How to find other users and other broadcasters in the yoga niche. Now, this is how to find users who are interested in yoga and who scope about yoga, so you can build a community of people who really engage with what it is you have to scope about. I'm going to tell you what equipment will make your scopes easy and professional. I'm going to tell you how to grow your followers. And I'm going to briefly touch on how to make more sales using Periscope. Now, this is going to be very brief. There is going to be a separate course about how to make sales on Periscope. but I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview so that once you get started, once you hit the ground running with Periscope, you're not waiting, sitting around hoping something maybe someday will happen. Now, if you haven't downloaded Periscope already, you can do so now in the App Store for iOS or in the Play Store for Android. I'm going to show you how the app works, and it might be easier for you to follow along through the app. Now, that being said, I do have screenshots here in the slideshow, and if you don't want to follow around in the app, then that's no problem. You don't have to. I do suggest you silence your phone. Silencing your phone will keep your distractions at a minimum today because you really want to make sure that you get all of this information down. This is going to be a very value-heavy class. And if your phone is ringing, if you've got Facebook alerts popping up all over the place, you're probably going to miss some very important details. And for the sake of making sure you don't miss any details, make sure you have a pen and paper. If you signed up for this course in advance, I did send out a workbook. And this book includes strategy ideas, scope ideas, and you can follow along the class with the workbook if you have that available. But if not, don't worry, because a pen and paper will work just fine. I'm going to take another sip of water, and we are going to start meeting the Periscope app in just a moment. I'm going to give everybody a minute there to download the app to their phone. All right. Now, when you first download the Periscope app, it's going to ask you to create an account. So this is the screen that you will probably see. It might look a little bit different if you're on an iPhone. I use a Samsung Galaxy S5 with the Android Lollipop operating system. So it may look a little different, but this is pretty much what you're going to see when you first install the app. You have the option of using your phone number or your Twitter to create your account. Since Periscope is owned by Twitter, it really is best to sign up using your Twitter account. Signing up with Twitter will drastically increase your marketing opportunities with the app. There are a lot of ways to share your scopes and to share other scopes using Twitter, and linking the two is very beneficial. Now, when you sign up, if you're using your Twitter, it's automatically going to populate your username and your bio, and it's going to pretty much pull in all that information right off the Twitter platform. You don't even have to worry about it. If you are signing up with your phone number, this is the one chance you have to set your username, including capitalization. You do not get the chance to change your username later. Make sure you have the name you want. But for branding purposes, I do suggest you use your Twitter name. If you are insistent on signing up with your phone number instead, use your real name, because this is all about branding. Use the name that people know you by online. If you do all of your social media under your business name, use your business name. If you do all your social media under the name of your yoga studio, use your studio name. If you do everything under your name, use your name. Using the same username will make it easier for people to connect with you. People who see you on Periscope won't be wondering if you're the same person that they saw on a Facebook page or on Pinterest or on Twitter or on Instagram. When you use the same name, it makes your brand much more cohesive. An additional benefit of signing up with Twitter is it will make it easier for people on Periscope to connect with you off of Periscope. And we'll talk about that more in detail later. Now, once you have your account set up, you can define your bio and your profile picture here in the back. And you can see on the screen here that a keyboard comes up and you can fill in your name and you can fill in your bio. The name that you fill in here does not change your username. This is your name. You can put your website URL in here if you want. So you could have your name followed by your website address. You could have an emoji in here. I had sunflowers for a little while. This is the name that will show up when you go live with a Periscope. So I will see your name plus your website address, if that's in this field, pop up whenever you start a broadcast. And so will everybody else who's following you. So make sure it's something that you want to be associated with your brand. Chalene Johnson has Chalene Johnson and then her website scopeisdope.com in her name. So every time she goes live, it says Chalene Johnson scopeisdope.com is live. This is a really good way to remind people that, oh yeah, she's got this brand new website and it's all about Periscope. Now you can edit your profile here at any time. What you put in here when you're first signing up does not have to be what stays for the duration of your Periscope life. You can change this weekly, daily, you could change it hourly if you wanted to. You can use hashtags in your profile because hashtags are searchable using the Periscope app and using Twitter. You can put emojis in here, but whatever you do, you only have 160 characters in which to do it, just like your Twitter bio. But as I mentioned, you can always change this later, so don't get too hung up on this right now. Because as you scope, as your community grows, and as you see the kinds of people who are flocking to you, you may want to change the bio to reflect how your platform has evolved. And I no longer scope entirely about art, but I do occasionally scope about art, so I do leave that in there. I do scope more now about business and wellness. So I made sure to leave those in my bio. Now, there are two things that you can do on Periscope. You can broadcast, which means you have a live streaming scope that people can watch, or you can watch other people's scopes. And when you do that, you are going to also be able to comment in their scopes. Those are the two functions that you have in Periscope. You can broadcast and you can watch broadcasts, and that's it. When you are broadcasting, you use your smartphone's camera to live stream video of you or whatever you're doing. If you're walking the dog, if you are getting coffee at a brand new coffee shop. One of my first scopes was of an art exhibit, and one of my other first scopes was of an artisan cocktail being made, which was totally cool. I was just trying to figure out the app at the time. As you get more comfortable with the app, you can do more styles of broadcasts. You could do some interview type broadcasts. You could do Q&A broadcasts. You could do tutorials. The type of broadcast that you do in the beginning does not have to be the type of broadcast you continue to do as your experience with Periscope grows. When you are broadcasting, you can verbally respond to comments and questions that your viewers are typing in. When you watch a broadcast, you're viewing what somebody else is broadcasting. You're viewing them walking the dog or going to that new funky coffee shop where the artisan cocktail is being made. And while you're watching, you can comment by typing into the chat box. And the scoper can respond to you or they can ignore you depending on what you said. But that's pretty much it. That is the base functionality of Periscope. It is super easy. Now, when you open up the app, you'll see a screen that looks pretty similar to this. This is your home feed. This shows the broadcast currently live from people that you follow, in addition to broadcasts that have recently ended from people you follow. This also shows the replays from people, and every now and then, Periscope will throw some featured broadcasts in there. Like the fire on the roof of the hotel in Las Vegas last month, that was a featured scope in Periscope because somebody caught it on their Periscope app. Also, Periscope will sometimes show broadcasts that have been recommended to you by somebody you follow. And that all shows up here in your home feed. So you have your recent broadcasts, and the button in the corner, the red circle, is where you tap to start a broadcast. Now, this is what it looks on the Android. It looks a little bit different on the iPhone, but it's not very dissimilar. It's still very easy to figure out, just like this. To view a broadcast from this screen, all you do is tap the title or the thumbnail, and if the broadcast is live, it will automatically pop up and you will start wherever the presenter is at that moment. If it's a replay, a screen pops up and you have to hit play. So let's look at a live broadcast. This is from Kino McGregor. She's an amazing yoga teacher. Love Kino. She really rocks her social media, and that's been a large part of what has transported her from the bottom of the yoga ladder to the top of the yoga ladder. I mean, she is an amazing businesswoman, and she totally rocks her social media. When you're in a live broadcast like Kino's, you can see here at the bottom of the screen, it says say something. That's where you would chat. And when you tap the button that says say something, up comes your keyboard. And you can type in whatever you want, but you are limited to about the size of a tweet. Now, you'll notice in this screenshot on the right that my profile picture is slightly tinted pink. This color corresponds to the color of hearts that you give when you tap the screen to give someone hearts. It is completely random, and it changes every time you go into somebody's broadcast. The color of your hearts are always different. When you enter a comment here, it goes into the stream, and it keeps your little profile picture next to it with the color overlay on top. Now, the hearts that you see popping up out of the number in the lower right-hand corner here is what happens when somebody likes what she is saying and they tap the screen. When you tap the screen, you give a heart. And we'll talk about hearts more in a few minutes. Instead of just chatting with the room, you can also chat with individuals. So if you tap on a comment in the feed, it brings up this menu here. This is the reply and block menu, although you can also view somebody's profile. To reply, you tap their comment, it brings up this mini menu, and you tap the blue reply button. This plugs in their username, and when you hit send, the person you are replying to will get an arrow that notifies them, oh yeah, this comment is to me, it's not to the whole room. Now, just because you're replying to someone doesn't mean that the rest of the room can't see it. So if you have something mean or nasty to say, or if you're being snarky, or heaven forbid, you're saying something dirty, the rest of the room will be able to see it. So keep that in mind. Now, just like any platform, there are trolls on Periscope. But unlike most platforms, Periscope trolls are hilarious. They seem to be 14-year-old boys from the Middle East who don't really speak English very well. The trolls are hilarious. But they do still say some rather rude things because, well, that's what trolls do. When that happens, you can block them from the same menu where you reply to somebody's comment. When this window comes up, you just hit block user. It will ask you if you really want to block the user. You hit yes, and it's done. You don't need to even acknowledge the person's comment. You don't need to even read what they said out loud. If you see, oh, this is something rude, you can just tap the comment, hit block user, and that is it. Now, don't worry if you block somebody by accident, which does happen, because sometimes the comments move very fast if there's a lot of people in the room and a lot of people talking. And when that happens, it's really easy to accidentally block the wrong person. But don't worry about that. After your broadcast, you can go and unblock them. Now, I did say I was going to go back to hearts in a moment. When you are watching someone's broadcast and you like what they're saying and it resonates with you, you can tap on the screen and give them hearts. You can give them thousands of hearts if you want to. One tap equals 1 heart. You can give up to 500 hearts at a time before the Periscope app stops counting them. So you can tap on the screen 500 times, which only takes about 2 to 3 minutes. And if you want to keep giving hearts, because let's say it's a really good friend of yours and you're trying to help them grow their Periscope following, you can leave the broadcast and come back, which will reset the heart count. As a broadcaster, I don't recommend you suggest people to leave only to come back in and give you more hearts. Because when they do that, they may miss some valuable content that you're giving them, or they may get distracted by another broadcast that has come up and they may not come back at all. And so for the purposes of keeping your audience, don't ever suggest people leave, even if it is to give you more hearts. It's all about the value. But hearts do have value as well. The Periscope algorithm will rank a user's profile higher when they have more hearts. When you have more hearts, your scopes will be recommended to more viewers who do not already follow you. You can also share a broadcast. All you do is you tap this little Perry dude in the bottom to share, where you see the little man icon. We call him a Perry dude on Periscope, and you see the number. Tap there, and it will bring up the screen that you see here on the left. This screen has information about the presenter, where they are, which not everybody has that turned on. This map is based on the location settings on your phone, and before you go live, you have the option of sharing your location or not sharing your location. If you're somewhere really popular, really crowded, like the Empire State Building, then go ahead and turn that on. Because when you do have the location turned on, you will get more viewers from the map view. But I do not recommend you turn on this location feature if you're broadcasting from your home. That can get kind of sketchy, kind of dangerous, and it's just bad news. So this is the menu that comes up when you tap Share Broadcast. You see your options: share on Twitter, share with all of your followers, share with specific people, or you can copy the URL and you can share it later on a different platform like Facebook. When you share with specific people, you are limited to sharing with only the people who follow you. When you share with all of your followers, every single person who follows you, who has the notifications turned on, will get an alert that you want them to watch Kino's meditation and light yoga for relaxation broadcast. When you share on Twitter, it will bring up a tweet field, and you can enter the tweet content that you want to share. it is pre-populated with the title of the scope. And if that's fine, then you can just share that, no problem. If you want to send it to a specific person on Twitter, you can insert their Twitter username. And when you hit tweet, they will get notified just like any other tweet. It's pretty awesome and pretty easy. You can share a live broadcast, and you can also share a replay. So on the topic of replays, replays are scopes that have been broadcast within the last 24 hours. Periscope keeps every single scope that has ever been recorded, but we can only access them for 24 hours. Now, as a broadcaster, you have the option of removing the replay immediately. So let's say you're giving a really valuable, really exclusive yoga tip. And if people don't get it live, then they don't get it at all without going to buy your program or without coming to one of your classes. You can remove the replay yourself. When someone tunes into a replay, they can give you hearts, but they cannot chat because the chat function is limited to only live viewers. Now, using a service like KatchMe, KATCH.me, your scopes can be saved indefinitely. Also, when you go live, you can have your scopes saved to your phone, and then you can upload the video later to YouTube, for example. So, those are the basics of Periscope, and that only took me about 30 minutes, so we're doing really well on time here right now. So I'm going to take another sip of water, and then we're going to talk about Periscope best practices, and in a little while we'll talk about doing your very first scope. Okay, Periscope best practices. Even though Periscope is new, there are some things that have been proven to work. And we want to make sure to be following these best practices and these tips every single time you go live. So before you do your first scope or your third scope, or wherever you are, I want to make sure that you understand these best practices. This will really make a difference in the quality of your scopes. So number one is to be authentic. The number one rule for success on Periscope is authenticity. If you are faking it, you will be found out. If you aren't being you, your audience will easily be able to tell. Because Periscope is in real time, you can see if somebody is nervous. You can see if somebody is flustered. You can tell if somebody doesn't know what they're talking about. Be authentic. Number two, not everybody's going to like you, and that's okay. Don't worry if people don't like you. People will weed themselves out, and that's a really good thing. When you're your authentic self, there are people who are going to resonate with you, and there are people who won't resonate with you. Those who don't jive with you or your scope topic will leave. They'll just exit your broadcast. And I actually really like when this happens because this allows me to focus on the people who do resonate with me, who do have an interest in what I'm talking about today. Tip number three, engage with the audience. Like any audience anywhere, having a Periscope audience is not a given. It is not expected, and it is certainly not a right. Just because you have a Periscope app does not mean that you will have a Periscope audience. Having an audience is a privilege. Engage with them and make them feel appreciated, or they're more likely to leave. It's as simple as that. You can engage with them by welcoming them to the scope. You could ask where they're from. You can ask how their day is. You can ask what time it is where they are. So even though you should be engaging with your audience, especially when you first start your broadcast, don't spend way too much time on this, because if you do, you run the risk of people leaving your scope. Because here's the thing, which brings me to point number 4. You should give value quickly. There are so many other scopes out there competing for viewers' attention. And not to mention, we have things to do off of Periscope. We can't sit on Periscope all day waiting for somebody to get to the point. Give value as soon as possible. People have limited attention spans, and if you are not giving them value, they are going to leave. There are many times when I have been in a scope and the broadcaster takes 10 to 15 minutes to welcome everybody into the room. Oh, hey, where are you from? Hey, how's it going? And they respond to everybody who's popping in, and they respond to all of their comments. So 15 minutes go by before I actually get the value that I went there to get. There have been times when I have just left because I don't have 15 minutes to waste waiting for good value. You can't expect people to waste their time with you. If you are giving them value, their time is not being wasted. Now, point number 5, trolls are going to troll. That's what trolls do. Trolls come in, trolls say some rude things, trolls take an attitude, trolls troll, because that is what trolls do. Ignore them. It may be hard to get used to the idea of ignoring trolls, and when somebody is saying something rude to you or mean to you, or they're just not being rather unpleasant in general, it can be difficult to wrap your head around this idea of just ignoring them. But you need to. The more you scope, the better you will be able to handle trolls. Trolls are not that common in my scopes, and there's a lot of people that I follow who don't have a problem with scopes either. Or there's a lot of people I follow who don't have a problem with trolls either. But they do exist, and every now and then one might pop into your scope. Just ignore it. The more you scope, the easier it will be for you to handle trolls. You will be able to see the rude comment pop in. You will be able to keep talking about your subject, block the troll at the same time, and not skip a beat. Point number 6. Scope once per day at least. Now, this is something that even I struggle with from time to time, especially this past week when I've been a little unwell. But scoping daily is good because it shows new followers that you're active. If people click your profile and they see 0 recent broadcasts, it looks like you're inactive. If you are serious about using Periscope to grow your business, you have to make an effort to scope every single day. That may sound intimidating. You may feel like you don't have the time. Your scopes don't have to be half an hour long every day. You don't have to spend a lot of time on it. And maybe you're worried that you'll run out of topics. Maybe you think you don't have something to talk about every single day. But believe me, that has not been a problem. I've done over 70 scopes, and I still have tons of things to talk about on Periscope. It's a lot easier to come up with topics than you think, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Now, point number 7. When you tweet the broadcast, you will get more viewers. When you set up your scope, you have the option of broadcasting it on Twitter. And I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. But when you broadcast it to Twitter, You will get viewers who watch from the web as well, because viewers are allowed to tune into scopes using their internet browser on their laptop. Point number 8, use relevant hashtags in the title of your scope. This will make your scope even easier to find, especially if you are broadcasting it on Twitter. Periscope will automatically add the hashtag Periscope to the tweet, so there's no need to repeat that. But if you're broadcasting about yoga, you can use the hashtag yoga, and it will automatically come up anytime someone searches for yoga and Periscope on Twitter. Point number 9 is to acknowledge the replay viewers. A lot of people watch the replays because not everybody is going to be available to watch you when you go live. That's just the way it is. People have other things going on. They go to work. They are getting the kids ready for school. They're busy. People have lives. So people will often tune into your replays. There are a few seconds between the time you first hit start broadcast and the moment that your first viewer will show up. In the replay, people will automatically see these few seconds. They will be there, and they will hear silence. You can use these first few seconds to welcome the replay viewers. Before anybody who is watching live comes into the room, you can say, hey, I just wanted to thank you for popping into the replay. If you think what I'm about to share with you is valuable, please remember you can tap on the screen and give me some hearts. It's that simple. It does not have to be challenging. And point number 10 is that the scope will end as soon as you hit the stop button. Often, even though you ended the scope and stopped presenting, it will appear to viewers that you were cut off in mid-sentence. They will miss the last 3 to 5 seconds of whatever you were saying when you hit the stop button. A good rule of thumb, and not a lot of people do this, is to wait a few seconds after you say goodbye. Hey, I'm going to wind up the scope now. Thank you everybody for watching. I'll see you all soon. And wait 3 to 5 seconds before you hit stop to make sure everybody who is watching hears you say goodbye and thank you. So those are the top 10 Periscope best practices. And I'm so glad we're doing well on time. We've been going for just 47 minutes, if you can believe it, and I still have a lot more to cover. So it does look like we will be ending at about 90 minutes, not 2 hours, so we will have time for a Q&A. Before we go into doing your first scope, which is coming up shortly, let's talk about what to scope about. If you are going to be scoping every day, you really might be worried that you're going to run out of ideas. As of this course, I have done almost 80 scopes. I believe I'm on number 77 today. And I still have a ton of things to talk about. So before we go any further, we can spend a couple minutes working on generating some scope ideas for you. If you have the workbook, you'll see a spot to brainstorm ideas. You can write down all your scope ideas there. If you don't have the workbook, no problem. A pen and paper will do just fine. There are so many things you can scope about, and I've listed some of them here on the screen. I've scoped about yoga, meditation, wellness, baking scones, making art, and all sorts of other things. Don't worry about running out of ideas. You can scope about a different yoga pose every single day. You can break it down into here's the best way to do this pose, and you can demonstrate the pose, you can talk the viewers through it, and you can take questions at the end. You can give a yoga tip for a pose that's commonly done wrong. So the first pose that comes to mind for me is Tadasana, because a lot of people don't engage their abs and they don't tilt their pelvis forward slightly when they do Tadasana. So they lose a lot of potential core engagement. That's the kind of tip that you can give on Periscope. You can make it super quick, super short and to the point, but still giving awesome value. Yoga myths. You could do scopes for years if all you talk about is different yoga myths. There are so many myths out there that we hear surrounding yoga. I mean, I hear things like, oh, I can't do yoga because I'm not a woman. Oh, I'm not skinny. I can't do yoga. Oh, I'm not white. I can't do yoga. I'm not flexible. I can't touch my toes. I can't do the pretzel poses. There's all these different things that we hear as yoga practitioners, as yoga teachers. There's all these myths and misconceptions and misconceptions. There's all these myths and misconceptions about yoga. And you could do one yoga myth every single day and have plenty of topics. You can talk about what's going on in the yoga world. Is there a new mat manufacturer who's recently launched their first line of yoga mats? Is there a new event coming up that you're really interested in? Is there a big festival that you want to go to? Yoga product recommendations. Now, this is something that I really love talking about. I love giving yoga product recommendations. There are so many products out there for yogis. And how do you even know where to start? If you're new to yoga, you may not know the best mat to get. You may just walk into Walmart and get a mat off the shelf, which is what I did when I first started yoga. You may not understand yoga blocks. How do I know if I need a yoga block? What yoga block is the best? What about yoga straps? What about mat cleaner? There's all these different things that you can talk about. You could talk about yoga books. You can give a new recommendation for a yoga book every single day. There's thousands of books. You can share thoughts from your yoga mat. You can share something that crossed your mind when you were in the middle of Shavasana. Now, here's this beautiful quote that came to mind when I was sitting on my yoga mat in pigeon pose. You can talk about local yoga events. You could stream local yoga events. You could go to a free community yoga class in the park and you could share that on Periscope. If there's an event coming up that you're involved with or you just really want to go to, you can talk about that on Periscope. You can conduct guided meditation. There's a lot of people who do meditation on Periscope. It's a really awesome platform for that. Every meditation style is different. So just because there's lots of other people doing it doesn't mean that you can't do it too. You have your own unique voice and your own way of guiding people that will really shine on Periscope. Because remember, Periscope is all about authenticity and being true to you. You can give tips about meditation. You know, let's say somebody in your community mentioned they're really struggling with their monkey mind during meditation. You can do a whole scope of different ways to control yoga. You can do a scope of different ways to control your monkey mind during meditation. You can do a scope about how to make your yoga practice more meditative. There's lots of different things that you can do when it comes to meditation tips on Periscope. And my two favorites, you can do mantras and you can do affirmations. You can start the day with a mantra for you and you can share it with your audience on Periscope. You can give them inspiration for their day, something to focus on. And you can give them affirmations. People need to feel better. They need to feel loved and appreciated. And this is something that we all struggle with. It's just part of being human. We struggle with feeling loved. We struggle with feeling appreciated. And we struggle sometimes with feeling like, yeah, you know what, life sucks, but it's going to get better. We all struggle with that. That is something everybody can relate to. So even though it's not necessarily about yoga, it is something that you can do to give value to your community. You can help people feel better. I highly recommend you do one scope every morning as an introduction to who you are and what you scope about. Think of this as your voicemail message for Periscope. It's like your answering machine. Now, in all honesty and all transparency, this idea was not mine. I got this idea from Chalene Johnson, but it is an amazing idea. Now, every morning, hop on Periscope and do a super quick scope, 1 to 2 minutes, and introduce yourself and what you scope about. This is a really good way for followers to learn about you. If somebody stumbles on your profile, they will see the scope, and it looks like you're an active scoper. I've been growing followers at such a rate that if I don't do this scope, I get people who have no idea what I am all about. Now, my super quick scope tends to run about 5 to 10 minutes, even though I try really, really hard to keep them shorter. It always runs long because after I introduce myself, I open up the scope to questions from my viewers and we do some chatting. We'll talk about yoga, wellness, really good microphones for Periscope. You name it, we talk about it. But I try very hard to give that value. You know, who am I and what do I scope about first, before I take questions, before I take comments, so the people who are joining, who are catching the replay to find out who I am, if they don't want to stay for the chat session, they don't have to. Now, there's lots of ways that you can do scopes, but there is a format for what we call a dope scope. These are the scopes that rock. They have really high engagement. People look forward to them. People can't wait for you to scope next because you have dope scopes. We are all early adopters here on Periscope. We are all learning from each other. We are all in on the ground floor of something huge. But that doesn't mean you need to reinvent the wheel. If you want to be doing dope scopes right out of the gate, you're in luck because this is the format. Number 1, welcome your replay viewers, as I mentioned. Take those first 3 seconds and say, hey, thank you for popping into the replay. After that, introduce yourself. My name's Esme. I'm the founder of 42yogis.com. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you, Cheryl, for popping in. Hello, nice to see you. We have someone from India here. Oh, look, we've got Portugal in the house. Acknowledge the people who are coming into the room as you're doing your introduction. Read and respond to a couple of those comments, but keep it brief because right after that, you want to go over housekeeping. Hey, so thank you for popping in. Just so you know, I'm going to be giving you my best content first, and then I will do Q&A at the end. If you have any questions or comments, please save them for the end because I won't read them. I'm going to make sure to give really good value right away so people who don't want to stick around for the Q&A can go about their day. This scope will last approximately 7 minutes. If you like what I am about to share with you, please remember you can tap on the screen and give me some hearts. Please remember that you can share this broadcast with your followers if you think it is something of value. So right there, I've covered my housekeeping. I'm going to give my content first, then I'm doing Q&A. The scope will last however long it's going to last. And I have suggested people give me hearts or they share, but only if they find the content valuable. That's the key. Don't ask for people to give you hearts if they don't like what you're saying, because it's not going to happen and it's going to make you look selfish. Be generous, give really good content, and people will give you hearts if they think it is valuable. So after that, give your value in just a few minutes. Try to keep it short. Brevity is your friend on Periscope. People have short attention spans. So instead of doing your top 10 tips for making downward dog better, do 1 tip a day. Break it into 10 different scopes. Instead of doing Top 5 tips for sleeping better. Break it into 5 different scopes. Do 1 tip per night. Brevity is your friend. People will not stick around for a 30, 45-minute scope while you are explaining all of these different things. There are so many other scopes out there competing for viewers' attention. So keep it short, keep it simple. After this, after you give your value, transition into the Q&A. So you finish what you're saying and say, okay, so now I'm going to take a few questions. So thank you all for hanging on to your questions till the end here. If you're not interested in Q&A, please feel free to leave. This will let people know that you have already given your best advice. You have given your value. You have given the content that you promised you would give them. And they can leave if they want to because they're not going to miss the value that they showed up for. It is very important to make this transition. Okay, so I'm going to start Q&A now. It's very simple. It's 1 sentence. Now, during Q&A, make sure you read each question aloud. This will help the people who are listening but not necessarily watching the screen understand what you're responding to. Because a lot of people, and I do this too, I'll be on Periscope watching somebody's amazing scope while I'm making dinner. Or while I'm going for a walk and I've got my phone in my pocket. Reading the questions aloud will allow the people who are listening but not necessarily watching still get the value. And when you read each question, respond as accurately as possible. If somebody asks you something and you don't know the answer, then you need to say, you know what, I don't know the answer, but I'm going to find out for you and I will get back to you tomorrow in another Periscope. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I don't know. But when you turn it around and say, I'm going to find out, I'm going to help you, I'm going to learn how to do this, and I'm going to teach you, you're giving them a reason to come back, and you're giving them value, and you're being very generous with your time because you know what? You don't have to go and look up this thing they're asking about. You don't have to go and do research, and they know that. They know you don't have to go do research to help them. And when you do, when you come back the next day and you say, you know what, I have an answer for that question you asked me yesterday and here it is, you grow your audience, you look generous, and you make people want to watch your scopes. And this is what it's all about. You have to be generous, you have to give awesome value. And if you're not giving people a reason to watch you, they're not going to watch you for much longer. After Q&A, when you are all done with your Q&A, ask people to follow you if they want to be notified of the next time you go live. That, you know what? If you don't follow me, tap the little Perry dude in the corner and give me a follow. And this way you'll be notified the next time I go live, which is going to be tomorrow when I am going to talk about the top 5 reasons yoga businesses fail. Just for an example. I wouldn't really do it top 5 reasons all in one long scope because, as I said earlier, brevity is your friend, but tease your topic. Tease your topic, give them a reason to follow, and you know what? Ask for the follow. There's nothing wrong with asking for the follow because some people may forget. Oh yeah, I don't actually follow her. And they may want to follow you and they just didn't do it yet. And last but not least, thank the audience for their time. I think this is extremely important, and this is something that most scopers do not do. They do not thank the audience for their time. And I find this to be rather insulting because I know that my time is valuable. And I actually said on Twitter a couple weeks ago, give me value or be gone with you. Because it is that important to me to know that I'm getting value and that my time is being appreciated. So at the end of my scopes, I make sure to say thank you. Thank you so much for watching my scope today. I know your time is valuable, and I really appreciate when you take a few minutes to share with me. It's that simple. You don't have to make an ordeal out of it. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but say thank you. Let them know you appreciate them, because the most valuable thing that we have as human beings is our time. It is not our money. It is not our home. It is not our car. Our single most valuable thing is our time, because we don't get more of it. We can't just make more time. We can make more money. We can buy another house. We can buy another car. We can't just manufacture time. It doesn't work like that. So when people are taking time out of their day, out of their life, when they probably have 10 other things that they should be doing instead of watching your scope, they're taking this time to spend with you. You should be saying thank you. You are giving them valuable content, and they are giving you their time. That is how this exchange works on Periscope. You give them value, and in exchange, they give you time. And you should thank every single scoper for giving you value when you are in their scope. And you should thank every single viewer for joining you in yours. Gratitude makes the world go round, in my opinion. And not saying thank you can be really detrimental, especially for those of us who are in the yoga industry, because we're all about peace and gratitude and harmony. So, now that we have gone over what Periscope is, best practices, and the format of a dope scope, it is time for your first broadcast. Yay! If you have already done a broadcast, or 3 or 4, no worries, because this can still help you. You should expect your first several broadcasts to suck. Maybe your first 20 or 30 to be a little bit off while you're figuring out the app and you're getting comfortable with the live video concept and you're getting used to all the controls. And I can't even tell you how many times I accidentally turned the camera around through the app at the beginning because I didn't realize that I could do that. And so I would tap the screen, and instead of opening up somebody's comment, I would accidentally turn the camera to face the other direction. The app is not scary. It is not hard, but there are a few things you're going to run into like that. And give yourself patience. Give yourself room to make mistakes. So go into this. Go into your first several broadcasts with the expectation that, you know what, these are going to suck, but I'm going to get better. It was probably my 50th broadcast when I finally went, oh, cool, I know what I'm doing now. Now, another really good thing to be doing when you do your first scope is to keep it short. Keeping it short will minimize the chances that you're going to make a mistake that you find really embarrassing later on. Keep it short, just a few minutes, and give yourself the room to expand if you need to, but also give yourself the ability to close the app if this just isn't working for you right now and you just can't handle it today. I recommend that you're honest with your audience as well. You know what? This is my first scope. I'm still figuring out the app. Thank you for being patient with me. You know, maybe your audience has some tips for you. When you admit, hey, this is the first time I'm doing this, I'm still really new, I'm nervous, you will get a lot of support. And maybe, just maybe, you should consider doing a private scope the first time. You can do a scope that you only share with 1 or 2 people that are really close to you, like your spouse or your child or your best friend, and they can give you feedback and they can help you get more comfortable before you start doing your broadcast for the whole world to see. Now, doing your first scope is pretty easy. If you're an Android, and this is what your home feed looks like, and this is where you start the broadcast. All you do is select the camera icon, which on Android is this red circle. I think on iPhone the icon is blue. And up comes this broadcast screen that you see here on the right. And you enter your scope title, where I wrote scope title here. And you can enter your hashtags. You could stick some emojis in if you want to. And underneath that title, you can see the Twitter icon. You can see the little Twitter bird is white. He's not always white. You tap the Twitter bird, he turns white, and that means your broadcast will be shared on Twitter. Now, this is something I didn't know at first. I thought that when you go live, it just automatically goes to Twitter. I didn't know you had to select the button. Not everybody does this. I don't know why people don't do this, but they don't do this. When you go live, make sure to send it to Twitter, because this will increase your followers and increase your engagement. As I mentioned a moment ago, you could do a private scope. So up here at the top where it says public, if you tap private, you have the option of only inviting a certain person. Now, something about Periscope that not everybody realizes right away is the default camera view faces away from the broadcaster. So it will automatically show what you're looking at. It won't show you. But here's a little known secret, okay? If you tap the top of the screen above the word yoga, where I have it in the screenshot here, double tap, and it will flip the camera around to the camera that's facing you. And you can see how the camera is facing me because my face is in this screenshot. Not a lot of people know that you can do that, but you can totally do that. And it means that when you first go live, there you are. You won't be seeing the floor. You won't be seeing the grass as you're walking outside if you double tap and it switches the camera. Now, the thumbnail image for your scope will be whatever the camera is first pointing at when you go live. This is why you'll see so many scopes in the home feed with a thumbnail of the floor, because someone is sitting at their chair and they're typing it in, they hit start, and they don't switch the camera around until they're already live. Well, too bad, because Periscope grabs that first frame and that's the thumbnail image. Now, you can work around this by either switching the camera to face you or by putting the camera on something different. Like you can see over here on the left screenshot where Lisa Cash here has a picture of her face, and that's her thumbnail image. You can point it at something else. In this case, this is her website. You can have the camera pointed at a sign, at a pretty Buddha statue, or at your website, and that will be the first frame. So now you've got your title, you've got your hashtags, you're all set to send to Twitter, and the one thing that you need to really be aware of and cognizant of before you go live is the location setting. This is the final thing to do before you go live. You may want the location on, but you may not want the location on. So in the app, look at the screenshot on the left, look at the screenshot on the right side of the presentation, and the very first icon is a little arrow. That is your location setting. When you tap that, it will share your location with everybody who is watching your broadcast. And it is accurate. I mean, it's not just it will share your general vicinity. It is street level accurate. If you are at home, I do not recommend you do this. That is why it is very important that you remain aware of this button. If the share location button is white, you are going to be sharing your location with everybody who watches. This will put your scope in the map view, and when somebody goes to see the details of the scope, it will show your location. If you are somewhere popular and populated, like the Empire State Building, go ahead and do it, because the odds of somebody coming there to harm you are very slim. But if you're at home, it gets a little bit creepy, and so I really recommend you keep the location setting off. Now, before you go live, take a deep cleansing breath. Inhale positive energy and confidence, and exhale anxiety and any negative thoughts or fear you may be having about Periscope. Periscope is meant to be fun. It is meant to be authentic and engaging and fun. For your first scope, I recommend you're very candid with your audience. Tell them it's your first scope, you're trying to figure it out. You could even use the hashtag first scope in the title instead of using yoga. Introduce yourself, tell them what you do, and ask for advice. Hey, I'm new to Periscope. What advice do you have for somebody who's brand new, for somebody who's trying to figure this all out still? People will be supportive. And also with regards to your first scope, and this can be difficult to get used to, remember that unless you're actually reading the comments, look into the camera lens at the top of your phone. Don't stare at the screen and watch yourself. Look at the camera lens at the top of your phone. This makes the audience feel you're more engaged. And you can tell. I mean, you can tell if you're watching somebody's broadcast and they're kind of gazing aimlessly at the screen and they're not looking into the lens. And you can tell the difference. It feels different. It feels more authentic and more engaging when they look into the lens. Try to keep your first few scopes short. Try to keep them to just a few minutes so that you get used to it. When you're done, thanks people for watching, and hit stop. To do that, you swipe down on the screen, hit the big red stop button, and you are done. It really, really is that easy. Now, you could join some Periscope support communities. And if you're a woman, go to perigirls.com and sign up. This is a Facebook group of over 5,000 women who come together to support other women on Periscope. There are daily scope challenges. There are events where you can meet other scopers. It's a really loving and supportive community, but it is only for women. In the similar concept to Perigirls is Tag Tribes, and this is for both men and women. Tag Tribes is a very quickly growing group all around the world of people who hop onto each other's scopes and support each other. You can join at tagtribes.media. This group was created by Mark Shaw, and he is very supportive as well. He will hop in and out of scopes, and he will give really awesome advice and tips. If you want to find more yogis, you can do so on Twitter. Because Twitter owns Periscope, it's really easy to use Twitter's search function to find users that you're interested in on Periscope. So you go to the Twitter homepage, and in the search box, enter hashtag yoga and hashtag Periscope. And if you look at the screenshot on the left, this is what pops up. You can see all of these tweets with the periscope.tv link. These are people who are watching on Periscope or are broadcasting on Periscope. There are replays mixed in here as well, but the benefit of this is to see people who do yoga scopes. When you tap the link, you can see what happens here on the right. So I tapped the Sarah Yoga Sarah I Yoga username. Here I tapped her link. And this is what popped up here on the right. You can watch Periscopes on the web. And when you tap a link in your internet browser on your laptop, it will come up in this web viewer. Here you see the option to download for iOS or Android, and you also see their username on Twitter and on Periscope. It is usually one and the same. You can write this down and go back and follow them at a later date. The benefit here is to find people who are in your niche, to find people who are interested in yoga, who are interested in wellness, and who broadcast about yoga and wellness. You can also do this from your phone using the Twitter app. And when you do it, this is what happens. Over here on the left, you can see the same scopes that we just saw in the previous slide. And when you tap on Sarah's scope, instead of coming up in your web browser on your phone, it comes up in the Periscope app. And this is very easy. So now all you have to do is tap Sarah's profile, and it gives you the option to follow her. It brings up her broadcast. It shows you where she was, the replay viewers. You can share it, and you can follow her. It's very, very easy. This is what I do when I try to find targeted yoga people to follow. I do it with the Twitter app on my phone. But you don't have to. You can definitely do it using the web browser on your computer. It just takes a few extra steps because then you have to write everything down and then follow them later from your phone. Now, equipment. All that you really need to rock Periscope is your phone and a data connection or a Wi-Fi connection. Those really help, but you really just need your smartphone. If you want additional gear to make your broadcasts more professional, there are some things that you can do. You're probably going to want a tripod, and you're probably going to want a microphone. Over the past several weeks, I have been testing different gear setups for Periscope, and these are my two recommendations. The Audio Technica, I see I had spelling check actually correct that, which it shouldn't have. Audio Technica lavalier microphone, and the Live Stream Gear Extreme tripod. The Audio Technica omnidirectional lavalier microphone attaches to your shirt. It's a lapel microphone, and it has a 20-foot cord. 20 feet. It's huge. The cord can be plugged into your phone, or it can be plugged into a wireless transmitter, which you can clip to your belt, and you can plug the other end of the wireless transmitter into your phone. This can be really helpful if you're teaching yoga, if you're demonstrating sequences on Periscope. This will keep you from getting tripped up in a cord while also giving a really good experience to the viewers. This microphone's fairly inexpensive. It was under $30, and it provides a really clear audio experience. When I tested this microphone on Periscope, there was a party of drunk kids next door and a lot of traffic, and my audience could only hear what I was saying into the microphone. In fact, this is the microphone I'm using right now to record this class. The Live Stream Gear Extreme tripod is awesome. I'm a big fan of this little device. It is a portable tripod for your smartphone. It works very well with my Samsung Galaxy S5. It works with iPhones. It is unclear if it works with the Galaxy Note because it is a wider phone. This tripod is inexpensive. It's under $20, and it's foldable. So that means you can use it as a handheld mount to hold your phone in front of your face a little bit further. Or you can extend the legs and use it as a tabletop tripod while you teach yoga. This is the device that I usually use for my Periscopes. These two pieces of gear will drastically improve the quality of your scopes. And you can go to these URLs and pick them up. So I'm a big fan. There are some other options that you could use in place of this particular tripod or this particular microphone. But after all of the product testing that I've been doing over the past few weeks, these are the two that I recommend. All right, now that you know how to broadcast, you know what gear you need, let's talk about followers. There's really only two ways to grow your followers. You give crazy, amazing, massive amounts of value, or you chat in other scopes. Growing your followers really isn't as hard as some people claim it to be. You can scope or you can watch scopes, and that's it. And when you scope, you grow your followers by giving awesome content and amazing value. When you're watching scopes, you grow your followers by engaging with the audience. This has been huge for me to grow my followers. Commit to doing one live broadcast every day where you give value, and also commit to going to a live broadcast every day and be active in the chat room. Watch the broadcast, engage, give hearts, leave comments, and interact with other viewers. But beyond that, you can turn yourself into the unofficial moderator for that broadcast. That means you're helping out the broadcaster by typing in their website URL if they ask someone to do it. You can type in a tip that they just gave or a quote. This is of huge help to the broadcaster because as a broadcaster, you can't comment. You cannot type things in. And there are some things that are just better when they're read, like your website address. So becoming the unofficial moderator of a scope is very helpful to the scoper, and they will usually give you a shout out, which grows your following. People will see that you are giving a lot of value to the community in somebody else's broadcast. You're being really helpful, and they will check you out. I have received a lot of followers that way. You will not grow your followers overnight. You will not explode with followers overnight. But by giving really good value in your scopes when you scope daily, and by chatting in other scopes once a day, your growth will be slow, but it will be organic. And that is good. That means the followers you do get are the people who actually want to be there and participate with you and see your scopes. Because Periscope is all about value and engagement and authenticity, having only a few hundred followers is far more valuable than having 1,000 followers on Facebook. The experience is more authentic and more engaging. It creates an audience that looks forward to your broadcasts every day, as opposed to Facebook, where people may or may not even see your post. All right, we have covered a lot today, but before we wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about using Periscope to make sales. I did mention this earlier in the class. There will be a whole separate course about how to make sales on Periscope. But I don't want you to walk away from this feeling like you just sort of do a little scope here and there and you wait and then the money is just going to come. I wanted to talk to you about how this actually works. So earlier in this class, I mentioned Zach Spuckler and Kim Garst, who have both made a lot of money thanks to Periscope. But how did they do it? Well, anybody could do it. It's very simple. For starters, they both have something to sell. You cannot make sales on Periscope or anywhere else if you do not have anything to sell. It could be an ebook, it could be a class, it could be a retreat, consultation time, but you need to have something to sell in order to make sales. This seems a little bit like common sense, but you would be surprised the amount of people that have told me, well, I want to sell something on Periscope, but they didn't have anything to sell. They didn't make the leap that you need something off of Periscope to sell. You can't just sell your time on Periscope. So both Zach Spuckler and Kim Garst have something to sell. Secondly, they give massive, massive, massive amounts of value every single time they start scoping. They don't come on and talk about themselves or give crap advice that nobody can follow, that doesn't work. They give massive amounts of value to their community. They both put in a lot of effort to making sure that their scopes are good quality, that they have things to share, that they have things that the audience wants to hear. And last but not least, they are not salesy. Both Kim and Zach will make pitches for their products in their scopes, but they do not hard sell. They are not salesy. Their pitches are surrounded by value. They don't just turn on Periscope and say, hey, I've got this thing and you need to buy it. That's not what it's about. They give massive amounts of value, and then they'll say something like, if you want to learn how to do this yourself, I have a paid course. If you want to learn how to do this, you could apply to work with me. And that's it. The pitch is short, it's to the point, but it's also only after giving massive amounts of value. There is a value, and then there is a pitch. It's not just one long continual pitch. When you do that, you will not have an engaged audience. You will drive people away. Nobody who is successful on Periscope is successful because all they do on Periscope is sell. So think about what you have to sell. Do you have an online class? Do you have a book? Do you have a workshop? Work that into your introduction. Hey, my name's Maria. I'm the author of Yoga for Beginners, a brand new book that's coming out on Kindle. Tell people where they can find more information about you and your product. Hey, I'm Martha. I run a yoga studio here in New York City. We've got some amazing yoga classes, and today I'm going to be talking to you about some of the challenges that my students have been dealing with. If you have some of these same challenges and you're in New York City, you can come on down and I will work with you one-on-one to get over some of these issues. And then you give your value. You can give your value first. You can tell them, okay, so here's some challenges that people have been struggling with in my yoga studio. Tell them what the challenges are. Tell them a little bit about how to fix it. And at the end, if you're in New York City and you're struggling with these two, why don't you come in and we can work on some of this together? Or check out my website, drop me an email, and see how I can help you. Either give value before or give value after. But if you don't give value at all, you're not going to be successful in making the sale. And sometimes the sale isn't about money. Sometimes the sale is about getting someone to sign up for your email newsletter. That's okay. But people still feel like they are giving you something by signing up. So you need to make sure you're giving massive amounts of value first. Not to mention, your sales on Periscope will be more successful if you have something relevant to what you're scoping about. If you are selling lawnmowers, but you're scoping about yoga, you will not make very many sales. I hate to break it to you, but you will not make very many sales if what you are selling is completely unrelated to what you're scoping about. Now, if you have a business with lots of different products or courses, let's say you're a Pilates teacher and a yoga teacher and you do Zumba. You don't want to sell your Zumba class in a yoga scope unless you're talking about how the two can complement each other. You would want to sell your Zumba class in a Zumba scope. You would want to sell your Pilates class in a Pilates scope. Make sure it is relevant to whatever it is you are scoping about. Wow. Okay, we have covered a lot of content today. I can't believe how much I've been talking and how fast I've been talking. I am so glad you have been able to join me for this training. I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate when you spend some of it here with me. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat box on the page where you are watching this. So if you're at 42yogis.com/business school/periscope, please type your questions into the chat box. I will give people a couple minutes to get questions in, and if none pop up, then I'm going to let you all go about your day. If you don't want to stick around for a little Q&A, please feel free to leave. You're not going to be missing much. I've already given the value that I have promised you today. If you have a question that comes to mind later, you can send me a tweet. My username is at Esme Walsh. It's the same as my Periscope username. Drop me a tweet or drop me an email, and I will get back to you as soon as possible with an answer to your question. And if I don't know the answer, I will tell you I don't know the answer, but then I'll go look it up for you. Okay, let's see. Checking Twitter here. I don't see any comments coming in over there. And it doesn't look like we have any questions popping in the chat box right now. So that must mean that I have given the content clearly and concisely, and I'm very pleased with that. If there's anything I can do to help you make your Periscope experience easier, please let me know. If you follow me on Periscope, I will follow you and I will help you with your broadcasts. I'll hop in, I'll give you hearts, support, comments, you name it. Thank you again for joining me this evening. I hope that the information I've given you is valuable, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you so much. Namaste.